Now, Judge, before you launch into this, Lizzie, would you again read what, to me, and I think you'll agree, this is, to me, the key sentence. Read it.
If we had confidence the president did not commit a crime, we would have said so. That is in the Mueller report. And
if we had confidence the president did not commit a crime, we would have said so. That opened the door.
I could not agree with Lizzie any more than I do. That opens the door for the Democrats to pounce. Effectively, what Bob Mueller said is, we had evidence that he committed a crime, but we couldn't charge him because he's the president of the United States. This is even stronger than the language in his report. This is also a parting shot at his soon-to-be former boss, the Attorney General, because this statement is 180 degrees from the 4-page statement that Bill Barr issued at the time he first saw the report.
Is it that bad?
I think so. I think basically he's saying the president can't be indicted, otherwise we would have indicted him, and we're not going to charge him with a crime because there's no forum in which for him to refute the charges. But we could not say that he didn't commit a crime, fill in the blank, because we believe he did.
And now this is about the obstruction of justice side of the investigation. I
also think that there is fodder for the Democrats on the conspiracy side. He didn't say there was no conspiracy. He just said we were not able to establish it beyond a reasonable doubt. There's some evidence of it, 127 communications between Russian agents and Trump campaign officials from July of 15 to November of 16, but not enough for us to make a criminal case out of it. I think this is hurtful to the president, hurtful to Bill Barr, fodder for the Democrats. But I also think that the language in here is such that there's something in here for everybody.
Right. But Robert Mueller also said, we did not, however, make a determination as to whether the president did commit a crime. So that indicates they couldn't prosecute anything because they didn't have the evidence of it, that it wasn't there.
The evidence that they laid...
I know they ended up 10 instances or 11 instances. I understand that. But that's a political decision to impeach, not a prosecutable one.
Correct. But the evidence he laid out is remarkably similar to the impeachment charges against Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton. Richard Nixon, tell Haldeman and Ehrlichman to lie to the FBI. President Trump, tell Don McGahn to change his testimony that he gave to the FBI. Bill Clinton, tell Betty Curry to lie to the FBI. Donald Trump, tell K.T. McFarland to put a false document in a file that you know is going to be subpoenaed. These facts that he laid out are so substantially similar to the matured allegations against Bill Clinton and Richard Nixon, it's clear where he was going.
This is Fox News' senior judicial analyst, Judge Napolitano, confirming what everyone knows, but what Republicans are pretending isn't true, that Mueller's press conference really is that bad for Trump. Napolitano blows a hole in Republicans' most misleading talking point, that Trump is exonerated because he wasn't charged with a crime. But he wasn't charged because it's against DOJ guidance to indict a sitting president. And the GOP knew that. In fact, it was their insurance policy. So from the beginning, they set out to claim that unless Trump was indicted, that he was absolved of all guilt. And lo and behold, Mueller followed the law by not indicting him. But because of today's press conference, the rest of the country was let in on that, so the White House can no longer fall back on this disingenuous talking point. But more importantly, Mueller said outright that he couldn't say that Trump did not commit a crime.
And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
As Judge Napolitano says, fill in the blank. People don't speak like that when the accused is, as Trump puts it, totally and completely exonerated. If I lent a friend my car and he called me and told me that if he had confidence that he didn't just get into an accident, he would say so, I wouldn't be very excited to see my car. For a career law enforcement official intent on not politicizing his position, intent on following DOJ guidance on not charging a president, intent on only laying out the facts of his investigation so Congress can decide whether or not to act on them, Robert Mueller stayed as neutral as possible given the glaring guilt of the subject of his probe. And even so, it was still obvious through his words that Trump is by no means exonerated. Napolitano goes on to compare this investigation into Trump to the impeachments of Clinton and Nixon. And it's especially interesting that he references Clinton because there are currently 14 Republican senators who voted for Clinton's impeachment for one of the same exact crimes laid out against Trump, which is witness tampering. Just as Bill Clinton was charged for trying to corruptly influence the potential testimony of his secretary Betty Currie, Trump made it known that Paul Manafort and Mike Flynn could receive pardons, according to Mueller's report. So if we look back to the late 90s regarding obstruction of justice, we'd hear Mitch McConnell say that the undisputed evidence shows that the president took the path of lies and deceit, and that he is completely and utterly perplexed by those who argue that obstruction of justice isn't a high crime or misdemeanor. We'd hear Chuck Grassley talk about how the president's actions weren't just outrageous and morally wrong, they were also illegal. And we'd hear Lindsey Graham claim that he doesn't want people at home to be confused that they can do these things, because if they do what the president did, they'd wind up in jail. But chances are, because this president has an R next to his name instead of a D, that suddenly Trump's blatantly obvious criminal activity will be permissible, that we won't hear anything from McConnell or Grassley or Graham or, while we're at it, any of the other Republicans who were so vocal while sanctimoniously grandstanding about protecting the rule of law during the Clinton years. So they can toe the party line and live in their Orwellian state of reality, wherein the White House tries to convince us that what we've just heard isn't what we actually heard. But this clearly isn't the best time to have their wagons hitched to Trump, because he may try to spin this as a win, but in reality, Mueller's press conference truly was
hurtful to the president, hurtful to Bill Barr, fodder for the Democrats.